hopefully you can all hear me, which we'll find out shortly if you're able to or not. I am here with the one and only Hubert Cumberdale. We are going to be talking about Gen0 Gene Rerolling. Say that 5 times fast. And I'm really, I say we, Hubert's going to be talking about that and explaining how that works and kind of some of the reasoning behind it as well. So we're glad that y'all are here with us. It's something that we're excited about, and all of this information obviously will be available. This video will be publicly available on YouTube as soon as we're done. So if for whatever reason you're not here or can't be here the whole time or anything like that, you'll be good. It'll immediately go live right after. And with that, let's say hey to Hubert.
Thank you, Bolin, and hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. Hopefully you can all hear me, and Bolin, if they can't, just let me know. I can only see my presentation, so. First off, before we get really started, I did want to just mention that we're talking about Gen0s here today, and this is all going to be about Gen0s and rerolling of their genes, so just to set expectations, I know there's only, a little over 2,000 Gen0s out right now, so this doesn't impact everybody, but I am going to talk about how genes work to an extent, and, if you're interested in this topic, I definitely don't want to tell you not to be here, but I just want to make sure that you understand that we're talking about Gen0s and how those we're going to allow for some re-rolling to happen. So with that said, let me just go ahead and get right into it.
Real quick, sorry not to interrupt you. I apologize. So they can hear us. Also, Kangaroo here is on the screen because he's running the stream. Kangaroo, audio is only running on the right ear right now on headphones. So I don't know if that's something that we can adjust, but if so, go for it. All right, back to the regularly scheduled program.
Sounds good. Okay, so first off, let me give a little bit of a one-on-one on how genes work, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. So when you have a hero, you have the main genes that you see are the dominant genes. That's what you actually see on the card. Like if you have a knight class, he's going to have a knight dominant gene, but he will also have 3 recessive genes. So in this example here, there's a knight that has a recessive gene. The first recessive gene is a pirate, then thief, then knight. And then say he's summoning with another hero that's a monk that has wizard, warrior, and pirate as recessive genes. So each of these recessive genes do have kind of a priority to them. So the way that this works when a summoning event occurs is the first thing that you do, or that the contract does, is it checks to see if a recessive gene moves closer to being a dominant gene. And it does it starting from the R2, R3 set, and then it moves up from there. So it's a 25% chance for a gene to swap. And so it'll first check, does R2 and R3 swap? In this example, the answer is yes. So these two swap. Then the next step is to check if R2 and R1 swap, and it's again 25% chance. In that case, it was no, so that didn't happen. And then lastly, R1 and the dominant gene, do they swap? And so in this case, yes, they did swap. So then the genes that are actually being provided for the new hero is going to be the dominant gene pirate, which is shown right here. It'll be pirate, knight, knight, thief. Like this will be for this one hero what goes in as an input to generating the new hero. The swapping doesn't actually swap these genes to the hero that's summoning, but it just is like it changes what the input is. So that's kind of the first step in the summoning process. Then from there, the next thing that happens is there's a check to see if a mutation occurs. And mutations can only occur with a specific pair, and it only occurs on the dominant gene. It does not look at any potential for mutation on any of the recessive genes. So it'll check, is this a valid pairing for a mutation? If yes, then do a roll to see if it happens. For basic classes, the chance is a 25% chance that a mutation occurs. And then when you get up to trying to get an exalted class, the Dread Knight, it actually drops down to a 12.5% chance. A lot of people probably don't know that detail in particular, but I believe it has been, if you use Mr. Zipper's wonderful hero bot, that does actually have the right values in it to give you the right percentages of your chances. So anyway, so that's the next step that occurs. And then lastly, and also in this example, the mutation did not happen. So then the last thing that occurs is just a 50% chance check that checks to see on each of the genes which one was selected between the two heroes on the swapped genes. So after the swapping occurs, it checks this, and so in this case, it chose Pirate as the dominant, chose Pirate as the recessive, Knight, and then Thief as the other ones. So this is what you ended up with for the main class of that hero that was summoned. So with this example, is Pirate, Knight, Thief in terms of just his main class. He ended up with a recessive R1 as Pirate, and so he's kind of more pure than others. So I'm sure many of you have experienced, you're like trying to summon, trying for a Dragoon, for example. You got your Paladin and your Dark Knight, and then you end up summoning a Wizard. That just happens because of the gene swapping. It's possible to occur. But in the case where you have more like pure genes like this, if the swap of R1 and the dominant occurred, that wouldn't change your chance of getting a mutation on this side of the equation, on this hero side, if this one was summoning. So the only way to like mess up that chance of getting the mutation would be if either basically if whatever is in R2 gets swapped twice. So then this swapping is yes, and this swapping is yes. So that would require, it's only like a 6.25% chance for that to occur. And then if you had like a pure class where it was all Pirate genes all the way across, then there'd be no chance of the swapping and the recessive genes causing an issue. With the original Gen 0s that came out with this, when we launched those with the 8 different classes, there was only a 0.2% chance that you could get a pure class, just because it had to randomly roll, the same number out of 8 choices in 4 slots. So it's I believe those should exist out there. I'm sure. I haven't really looked closely, but I'm sure there are at least a few pure classes, and that. If you're trying to get mutations and stuff, it is more, I could say that it's likely more desirable to not have those other recessive, other non-pure recessive genes. So, with that, if we start talking about that kind of thing in context of the Crystal Veil Gen 0s, what we're doing is we're going to be adding new genes, new basic genes for the main class. That's the Berserker and the Seer. Subclass, same thing, Berserker, Seer. Then we have 2 new hairstyles that are basic, 2 new head appendages, and 2 new back appendages, all in the basic gene pool, as well as color genes for each of those. But with these new genes, there is kind of a challenge where with what we did with the original 8, we had 8 options that could be randomly rolled for every single gene slot. In this case, and what came out of that is there was pretty much close to 250 of every option of gene out there among the pool. So you have about 250 knights in like the dominant slot of the main class, 250 knights in the recessive R1 slot of the genes, and this is within like the Gen 0 pool of genes. It was randomly generated, so it's not exactly 250, but just on average around 250. And if we were to try to accomplish that just with the new Gen 0s in Crystal Veil, we only have 2 options available to us rather than 8. So we would end up kind of with this sort of breakdown where you'd have, only Berserker and Seer as options, and you could get, this Berserker, Seer, Berserker has a very low chance of having, the Seer kind of come up, and so he has a higher chance of getting mutations than another one. And also your chance of getting like a pure seer is much higher, or a pure berserker. You'd have a 12.5% chance of getting that if we went down this road, which we are not doing that. But this kind of just is to illustrate the problem and why we're making these moves um, to address this. So and yeah, just it's if we just went with this route, also you would end up with as far as like your main class subclass pairings, you'd only have seer seers, seer berserkers, berserker berserkers, and berserker seers. So we'd also have a very limited amount of different main class subclass combinations among those new Gen Zeros. So that too would kind of incentivize players that own these Gen Zeros to only be summoning amongst themselves and not really mixing often with the other genes that are out there. And that's not really something that we aspire to have balance wherever we can. And this is another thing where I see this as incredibly imbalanced. So this was another kind of reason behind wanting to do something different. Also with appearances too, if we were to do the same thing, most of the new Gen Zeros would look very similar to each other. They'd only have 2 different hair options, 2 different back appendage options, and so on. So all of these things are problems we're trying to address here. So what we'd like to do to solve that is have gene mixing for the new Gen Zeros, meaning that they will have 10 different gene options available to them instead of 2 for every slot except for the main class dominant gene. So it's guaranteed that you're going to get either a berserker or a seer, but the rest of the genes could be any of the 10 that are now going to be in the pool with this release. So that's what we're doing for the new Gen Zeros. For the old Gen Zeros, this is the gene re-rolling that we're talking about now. So if we were not to do this gene re-rolling, there's kind of a downside to that. If we were doing the gene mixing but not re-rolling, you'd be looking at about 50 berserker and 50 seer subclasses among all the subclasses that come out, or among the entire Gen 0 pool, because they'd only have a 1 in 10 chance of rolling berserker or seer. And whereas you'd end up with about 300 of each of the other subclasses. So there'd be definitely kind of an imbalance there between the subclasses. And then that also applies to appearance genes. And if we were to continue this approach, we do have plans to have 3 more expansions in the future. If we were to use this same approach with only just mixing the genes together for the new Gen Zeros, as you go forward in time, we end up just making the new genes, which are basic genes, more and more rare. Up to by the end, after all expansions out, we'd have like 158 on average Crystal Veil subclass genes, and then going all the way down to like expansion 4, you'd only have 31. So hopefully this helps illustrate kind of the rationale behind what we're doing. This is very unbalanced, and these are intended to be basic genes. The things that are intended to be rare are those mutations and getting to advanced classes and above. So this is something we don't want to have. So if we get into gene rolling, then gene re-rolling for the original Gen Zeros, so this would only apply to those that were summoned in Sarandale, not the new ones coming out today. We are going to offer Gen 0 holders the opportunity to re-roll with their choice. They can choose to do nothing. They can re-roll their game-related genes, so their main class recessive genes and all their subclass genes. They can re-roll none of those and only their appearance genes, the ones that have gained new options. So there are many that have not received new options, like eye color, skin color do not have new genes. Gender doesn't have anything new, and So those will not be changing. But anything that is getting something new, we're offering the opportunity to reroll. And then the final option is to do reroll all of the genes that can be rerolled. You'll only have one. This is a one-time transaction per hero. Whatever choice you make, you can't go back and undo it. You can't make another choice. You can't choose to reroll your appearance and then later want to reroll your game genes. You have to make the choice in one transaction, and that will be, the results of that will be what you get, and then that's it. However, I will also note that we do plan to do this again with each expansion. So it could be possible for the oldest Gen Zeros to be re-rolled 4 times. And Crystal Veil Gen Zeros won't be able to re-roll this time, but they would be able to re-roll next time, and so on. So along with those options, just to kind of add some extra juice to that, we plan to offer rewards just to help incentivize players to do this. Because for each person, each Gen 0 that does this reroll, it brings the gene pool closer to balance. I would be surprised if everyone did this, just because I know that there may be some that do have like that pure, they have like a pure knight that has all recessives as knights. Maybe they wouldn't want to reroll their game genes, but maybe they'd be willing to reroll their appearance genes. If you do it, that helps just the game as a whole become more balanced, and we do provide these extra bonuses. So let me talk about those. So with the bonuses, you will receive all of these things, and it will be based on your choice. So if the first thing that you'll receive is a summon reset. So this is essentially resetting your effective summon count. What will be displayed in the game will still have the total number of summons that you've performed, but with this reset, there is the summoning cost and the cooldown are driven by what your summon count is. So if you only reroll the game genes, that would reset you down to 5 summons, which would mean your next summon would cost, I believe, 12 jewel, or let's see, no, 16. It would cost 16 jewel for that, rather than 30, which is kind of the cap. If you were to reroll only your visual genes, it would reset it to 8, so that'd be a little bit less of a savings, but you'd still get reset down. But if you reroll everything, it'd reset it down to 0, so your next summon with that Gen 0 would cost 6 jewel to summon. And then your cooldown timer, I believe, would be 4 hours rather than the 72 hours. So that's the first reward. The next is that there will be an experience reward for that hero, and it says up to here just because if you're close to cap, then you're gonna not get the full amount. It doesn't roll over to the next level. It'll just give you up to as much as you can to whatever your maximum is. So you can get 4,000 if you roll your game genes experience. You can get 2,000 if you reroll your visual genes, and 12,000 if you reroll everything. Next is the stat bonuses. So this is not provided if you just do visual genes, but if you reroll the game genes, you will receive +1 to the 2 most relevant stats of that subclass. I will caveat most relevant stats is slightly, it's mostly true, but the way it was selected was also selected to ensure that there was somewhat of a balance between which stats are selected. So there may be a few cases where you would expect maybe Thief to get luck first, but instead they get agility. I think in general, let's see, that really is actually going to kind of play more into what's down here than this, because I think with Thief it is agility and luck that you'd get a bonus if that's the subclass that you get. And then if you reroll everything, you'd get +2 to those 2 stats instead of +1. Then with the next thing, you'll also receive some bonus items. This is the first time these items have been given out, and they're the most powerful versions of attunement crystals and greater or enhancement stones. So if you reroll your game genes, you'll receive 1 greater attunement crystal that's based on your new subclass, which will be tied to what was marked down as the most relevant stat. Again, most relevant they were kind of tweaked, so don't take that to just take that with a grain of salt. There are multiple stats that are important to every hero. It's not all just one stat. So if you reroll your visual genes, then you would receive a greater chaos attunement crystal. So this one that one just chooses a random stat to apply a bonus to when you're leveling up, or a bonus chance to increase the skill. So you'll get that if you do just the visual genes. And then if you do everything, you'll get 1 greater enhancement stone, and then 2 greater attunement crystals that are all based on what the new subclass that you received is. And then lastly, we also will be recording achievements on the heroes, similar to the Perilous Journey achievement. You can see those heroes have a little mark on them. We're also putting a flag on those heroes as well to mark that they rerolled for this Crystal Veil expansion, and marking which option they chose as well. So I think the last thing that I'll say about this is, I guess, probably the question that might be going is when. That is not going to be launching today. It's with everything coming on, we had to delay it slightly. Our plan is to have this start on Friday this week at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it will run for, I believe, 31 days. It'll end on June 6th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you'll have essentially a month to decide if you're going to re-roll or not. So if your hero's like really close to leveling up, maybe you'll want to level them up first before doing it, just so you can take more advantage of the experience gain. But I will just say, it would be a great help to the game for you to reroll, just to help do this. I definitely understand there will be people that don't want to do that, and that's perfectly fine too. But just from me, just as someone who is always trying to seek for balance in the game, this is really important to me. So just as my personal request, if you're kind of like not sure or anything, I mean, I'll just say I hope you do it. But it is up to you. So with all that said, I think that really covers everything. So Bolin, if you have any questions that people have been asking, I can maybe answer a few of those before we sign off.
Yeah, there's not too much, but a little bit. I guess first one is just for clarification. Does any of the reroll affect rarity?
No, it does not. It only touches the genes, and only
Beautiful.
those specific ones. These ones here on this list.
All right. And then, I mean, really, honestly, the only other one that's kind of been floating around, and I think most people are overall on the same page, but I think it would be good just to put out there, is essentially why we wanted to incentivize it, like why we really want to encourage it to happen, which I feel like you touched on anyway, but maybe just a recap on that.
Right. Yeah. As I said before, as I highlighted, if nobody does the rerolling, then we do have this issue here, where the basic genes are going to become more and more rare relative to the original basic genes. So that does kind of create an imbalance. People might be maybe people like that because they'll have a rarer gene, but it also, if an old Gen0 does a reroll, they could end up with, a Berserker or a Seer recessive gene in their main class, and so they could potentially be summoning Berserkers and Seers themselves. So hopefully that also is an incentive. But yeah, we really just wanted to make sure that we were pushing for people to do this, because I really want to do as much as we can to resolve this issue and have it be a balanced gene pool.
No, that makes total sense. Let's see. Stat bonuses do not change. Professions don't change. Yes, there is a cutoff date. We said 31 days starting on Friday. Is that correct?
Right.
Perfect. Yes, we considered many things for rerolls, crystal, jewel, all of the above, but we wanted to do in-game items that were more related to the heroes that they're rerolling. Let's see. Does anybody have any last-minute questions before we? Will this be happening every expansion? Hubert, I know you touched on that, but I'll let you recap that real quick if you don't mind.
Yes, the plan is for this to happen every expansion. Otherwise, we'll have the same problem next time if we don't do it. So.
Yep. And that way it just keeps rebalancing those genes, the new genes, through the entirety of the pool. Gen Zeros will come after the patch. As soon as the patch goes live, we'll be running a script to do all the airdrops. Yes, it could change a wizard into a monk. That is, well, actually,
no. Main class is not changing.
true.
Yeah, the main class dominant gene is not changing. So your knight, it will always be a knight, but his subclass might change.
Right. It would
But
change your wizard subclass, or could change your wizard subclass into a monk subclass, but the subclass only, yes.
right, but yeah, the main class recessive genes could change though. So when those swappings do occur, sometimes you may end up summoning things differently than you had in the past.
Skills are not re-rolled. Let's see. Will there be a special reward for re-rolling all 4 times? Hubert?
That has not been decided.
Predict the future, Hubert.
But we are marking it, I'll say that. But it has not been decided at this time.
All right. Most of the other questions I see floating around are more so about tonight's patch, and we're not going to answer that. You'll have to stay tuned for tonight's patch, and I think that's about it. Hubert, anything you wanted to add before we wrap up?
No. Thank you all for listening. I'm really excited for tonight. It's been a whole lot of work to get in this all into place. We're getting very close, and just making sure we don't have any bugs. Doing a lot of testing. Everyone was up really late last night doing a lot of testing, and I think we're getting, like I said, we're getting really close. I hope you all will enjoy. Seeing more features coming into Crystal Vale. This is just one extra step into bringing that part of the world alive, and it will also likely be seeing people bridging heroes back and forth, starting to see berserkers and seers and the new advanced class showing up in different parts of the world, and I'm really excited to see that, and I think tonight's gonna be a really fun night. So thank you all for listening again.
Most definitely. We do not have any events planned ourselves for tonight. We have a lot of community members that do a lot of streaming, so I'm sure they will be all over the place. But the team was not eligible for the vast majority of the Gen0 raffles, so we're not going to have Gen0s. So we would have been struggling to do live streaming anything. So I'm sure that many of our community members will have live streams going, which will be really cool to see. We're super excited though, and appreciate you, Hubert, for taking this time to walk everybody through some of this, and doing the same with Perilous Journey. We've done it a couple times in Discord, so really appreciate you like laying everything out there to make sure that everybody's on the same page and has a full understanding, especially when it's something that's a little more complex like this or Perilous Journey, rather than our normal just here's a new game feature. This one's a little more involved, and we want to make sure everybody understands it. So appreciate that. Thanks everybody for coming by and tuning in. And yeah, we're excited to have tonight's patch. Also, Risen and I got to do a plug. Sorry, but Risen and I are doing a midweek Chaos Cast at 4 p.m. Eastern, which is in an hour and a half, with Pocket RPC, a couple people from Pocket. So feel free to join us for that as well. Other than that, have a great day, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Bullish.
Everyone, bullish.